cluttered garage. I'm really glad you're here. A place where we can laugh and talk and days are filled with cheer. The clouds of sun may come and go, but one thing's always clear. Welcome back, my friend. You know I'm really glad you're here. Yeah.
Hey, welcome back, my friends. I am indeed really glad you're here. It's Monday again, May 20th, live stream number 161. I'm really excited to be here tonight. I hope you had a good week, and it feels like, I don't know why it feels like it's been such a long time. So I'm glad to be here with you. Maybe it's been the weather. It's been so rainy and overcast here. We're finally seeing the sun for the first time and feels like a couple of weeks. But I'm not complaining about that because that has played in perfectly with what we're talking about tonight, and that is wildflowers. You saw in one of my last videos, I planted several hundred feet of wildflower seed and got them in the ground. And then it started raining lightly for like the next 2 weeks, which was perfect. And now we have these little sprouts coming up. We'll talk about that more. But uh, I'm excited because we're bringing on Mike Lizotte from Lizotte from I'm sorry, Lizotte from American Meadows, and he's going to talk to us about wildflowers, wildflower seeds, and answer as many questions as we can tonight. So I do want to say though, if it is your first time here, if it's your first time live stream, make sure you say hi in the live chat so we can welcome you. We do this every Monday night from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And one thing important for tonight, there probably will be quite a few questions. So if you do have a question for Mike tonight, uh, post it in the live chat in this format with the word question followed by the question. Then that'll help it stand out for us just a little bit. So uh, I don't want to waste too much time because we have just an hour. So I'm going to bring Mike on and we will start chatting about wildflowers. There he is. Hello, Mike.
Hey Ed, thanks for having me.
We got the seed man live in person.
Yes, sir.
Thanks
Glad
for
to hear
being
you're
here.
having some great weather too. We are having some really nice weather here. Perfect. I was out at our headquarters today doing some tilling and doing some seeding to celebrate this inaugural Reduce Your Lawn Day. So I think I'm up to 25,000 steps today. I'm a little
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, I normally can't stand the dreary weather, but I was so happy that it was such perfect timing. I got the seed in the ground, and like I said, it was just a light rain came down, and it lasted. And then we had a day of sun, and the flowers are already, the seeds are already starting to sprout. And then we had more overcast days with a little bit more rain, but it's just been like perfect. I haven't had to apply any water whatsoever. So
Yeah, absolutely, Ed. And it's funny, not to jump in here, but when talking to people about installing or planting wildflowers, especially people who don't have access to water, always trying to steer them towards some moisture in the forecast, some rain, and planning their planting around some rain in the forecast to take advantage of it, just like you did, Ed. Because I think people are pleasantly surprised, like it sounds like you were. I know you've been doing this for a bit, but it doesn't take much. And if the ground temperatures are optimal and you put that seed down, you get some rain within 3, 4, 5 days. You have sprouts. I think a lot of times when I'm talking to people, they think it's going to take 3 weeks or 4 weeks for the seed just to germinate, and it doesn't take much. So I'm glad you were able to take advantage of that rain.
it doesn't take much, and I have been doing this for several years, but it's still exciting. You know, you go out every day, like, are they there yet? Are they? And then you see these little sprouts, and it's exciting every time.
Absolutely.
Uh, in fact, I shared on my Facebook page, my Instagram page, a picture of the little. I don't know if this camera will focus, but yeah, there it goes.
There you go.
That
Yeah,
was that was after about 6 days.
that's
So
great.
it was just perfect.
Yeah, it doesn't
So
take
we
much.
did jump ahead a little bit, and that's okay. First of all, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I'm honored to speak with you. I want to start out just by offering condolences because I know that your founder, Ray Allen, is that correct?
That's
Uh,
correct. Yeah,
Passed away recently. You shared that on your Facebook or Instagram page. So
correct.
I thought it would be nice to start out just to honor him And if you want to say any words about Ray, or talk about how he founded the company. Uh,
Yeah, certainly appreciate that. And yeah, Ray, he was a brilliant, inspirational guy, mentor to me. Was a passionate gardener, a passionate businessman, and he was a great leader. When I started with the company back in 1987 or 88 as a teenager, he was such a role model for me growing up, and we'll talk about this a bit, but his passion for gardening, his passion for being a great leader, how he ran the business, how he treated employees, it was very inspiring for me, and it really kind of stoked the fire in me of saying, wow, this guy was able to take this passion of gardening and turn it into a very successful business, supporting lots of employees and allowing them a lifestyle and to earn a living working for this gardening company. And truly honored to be able to kind of take the company to the next level when myself and my business partner Ethan bought the company in 2009, and to see where it is today. I think we've done Ray well, but he was truly be missed, and certainly appreciate mentioning him, and yeah, so
sure. And I appreciate hearing that he was a great leader, because that's something that is so important. And leadership skills, that maybe it's natural for some people, but there's a certain formula to good leadership, and it sounds like he had that. And it goes to treating people well. But it's a like I said, it's a tricky formula to be successful and to be a good leader. And I'm glad to hear that he had that impact on you.
yeah, absolutely. He did. It can be it's not always easy, and certainly as a business owner now, and seeing having employees and how you treat them, and I really learned a lot from him. And you are right, treating people well and fair, and being able to be a good communicator and leading by example. I'll tell a quick story. Again, when I first started working as a 13 or 14-year old, the business at that time, although it was only about 8 years old, he founded it back in 1981. It was pretty successful right out of the chute. This wildflower niche that they were that they had found themselves in, and you know what was interesting, and again, my being naive as a teenager, like you just figure, hey, when someone's successful, they don't really have to work hard. They put their feet up, and they're just like, hey. But Ray was always the first one in to the office, always the last one to leave. Not only was he nice and treated you well, like he worked so hard, and that work ethic, always asking questions and pushing the envelope, and it was inspiring. But like, man, he it was and you could see it trickle down to the employees, and people wanted to work for him, and that was inspiring. So as being able to buy the company, and making sure, like, hey, it's you always got to be pushing the envelope, and trying different things and new things, and not all the things are going to work, but never being afraid to try. And I think learned a lot of those lessons from Ray.
Yeah, that there are successes, there are failures, and we learn from all of it. And that's just the way it goes. And you mentioned what a hard worker he was. And sometimes we're envious of successful people. Like you said, you thought that he had his own business. He maybe had a lot more freedom and time. But I've come to realize that the one thing that I see that successful people have in common is they work their tails off. Even in this business of content creators, there are really successful YouTube channels. And when I see of them, again, what they have in common, they work really hard. And that's just, and it's not guaranteed. I know people who work really hard and they struggle. So it's not a simple solution to say, oh, work hard and you'll be successful. No, it's work, it's luck, it's timing, it's skill, it's all those things. And like I said, I know plenty of people who work harder than anybody I know, and they struggle to get by. And that's just how it goes sometimes. But I'm sure you've got that work ethic instilled in you, and you're probably maybe you're the only one at the company right now. If you're sitting there by yourself, maybe.
No, this I'm actually at my home office here.
Okay.
We were all there was a good portion of us out today. Again, we were doing some wildflower installations at our corporate office, which is in Shelburne, Vermont, which is in northern Vermont. Celebrating this inaugural Reduce Your Lawn Day. We had a local news crew there. Jack Thurston is a local news reporter, was there. So we had a whole bunch of us out there today in the dirt, and it was, at least Vermont, it was warm today. It was I think it got into the low 80s, which is the first 80s of the season. So it was
Yeah.
hot out there, and I was wrangling a tiller all day, but it was great, and great cause. And we, obviously at our corporate office, lots of always expanding our meadows there. So always fun, always a great time. I love this time of year. I was in New York last week doing an installation for a gentleman, and it's always a great time of year.
So tell me more about this Reduce Your Lawn. Is it a campaign? Is it a what's the best word for it?
It's actually an official day. We registered this and it was approved, and so it kicked off today as the inaugural Reduce Your Lawn Day, and it was really kind of to create awareness. There's actually a pledge that people can go and sign. And as of this morning, I believe there were over 2,000 people who had pledged to take a little piece of their lawn and turn it into something, whether it be meadow, perennials, whatever it is, to cut down on mowing, cut down on lawn, because we all know how much of a time suck and environmental suck they are. And we kicked it off. We worked with Kathy Jentz, who is works down in the Maryland area, and it's been a great success. We're really excited. You can go. There's a website called reduceyourlawn.com, and you can go and you can sign the pledge and do your part in turning that little piece of grass that's a pain to maintain and mow, and do exactly what you did, Ed, and plant some wildflowers.
That's right. And it's so perfect because it's like, not only do I not have to cut the grass, I've got this beautiful bed of wildflowers, and I don't want to say they're maintenance free, but they're pretty maintenance free. I mean, people have asked, what do you do about weeds? My experience has been that these flowers either coexist with the weeds or they choke out the weeds, but it's really, once they take off, it's just great.
You're absolutely 100% correct.
Now, one thing that I have done in the past is we till the ground, we sow the seed, um, but I have not yet established an area that is a perennial wildflower meadow.
Sure.
So should I leave things alone, or should I till it and replant every year, or is there a certain variety I should be using beside the cosmos and zinnia to create an area that I literally don't have to touch, or what do you think about that?
So it's a great question, Ed, and I answer it every day. And first of all, it will come down to personal preference.
So it's not a very original question then.
Not original, but that's okay. It's a great question because I get it all the time. And really, Ed, it comes down to personal preference, where, again, someone brings that question up and they usually have some type of idea or objective to their meadow. They want lasting color, low maintenance. They want flowers to come back year after year. So if that's the case, and I'm talking to someone like that, Ed, you're exactly right. I'm going to steer them towards perennials, versus I might have Ed on the phone, and Ed loves big, bold color, quick color. He plans to till and prep the area each year to put those flowers in. He's going to be steered towards those annual flowers, things like cosmos and zinnias and sunflower and plains coreopsis. So everybody's different. One isn't better than the other. It really comes down to, Ed, personal preference. So when I start that conversation with a prospective gardener, those are the questions like, are we looking for long term? Do we want color that's going to come back year after year? That's where we get into that perennial versus annual. And again, Ed, it's really all personal preference.
So I'm not doing anything wrong by by tilling up this area and replanting every year? Because
Nope.
I wondered, like, would these Cosmos zinnia are annuals, right?
That's correct. Yep.
But they do go to seed, right?
They do go to seed. Yes. Now, a lot of it, as far as reseeding goes, Ed, will really depend on where you are geographically in the country. So, where I am in Vermont, where you are, we tend to get cold winters, hard winters, frost, snow, freezing. A lot of times, that reseeding isn't going to be as successful or as abundant as if we were in a milder winter climate. Let's say we lived in the Carolinas. You may find that cosmos do reseed themselves. And it's funny you bring it up, Ed, because not that I argue with customers, but I will have people who say, Mike, my cosmos is a perennial. It comes back every year. Well, it's still an annual, but it's just reseeding itself and it's coming back. And a
Right.
lot of times, again, Ed, that will depend on what type of winters you have. But another thing to keep in mind, Ed, is that let's say you had a mild winter and you did notice that some cosmos reseeded or some sunflower. A lot of that is it's just chance. And because remember, an annual life cycle is completed in one season, and that is it. And if it does drop seed, the seed could. But I'm always telling people if you want guaranteed annual color every year, you should sow seed just like you're doing every year because reseeding, it's all chance. It could, it
Yeah.
couldn't. What's the weather do? What type of winter did you have, etc. But if you want guaranteed annual color every year, you should put in fresh seed for those.
Right. And we've certainly had some surprises where you see a nice little, a couple flowers come up along the
Yeah,
woods or somewhere where you had them
absolutely.
before. And,
Yeah,
it's a fun surprise, but I realize they're not, that's not how they're intended to work. So I guess a, a,
yeah.
a true perennial is, I guess that's root based
That's
rather than
exactly
seed based.
correct. Yep, 100%. And that's where people again educating, which is a lot of my job, is a perennial's not coming back because it dropped seed. A perennial's coming back from that live root structure under the soil that you cut it down, it stays live, it goes dormant through the winter, next year, new plants, etc. Can it does it produce and drop seed? Absolutely. But the reason it's coming back is nothing to do with the seed. In most cases, it's that root structure. And those
Right.
root structures can stay viable in the soil for 5, 10, 20, who knows how long. So
We did at our previous property, we did plant like a 15 by 15 area of, um, is it black eyed Susans or brown eyed Susans? Black eyed
yeah,
Susans, right?
yeah, yep, Rebecca. Yep.
I think a brown eyed girl. Black.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yes.
And they came up almost too thick. We actually had to thin them out because they would
Yeah,
keep coming back. And but they're beautiful. They worked out great.
yeah. They're a hardy and very popular. And technically, Rebecca Herta, which is Black-eyed Susan, technically that's actually a biennial, which is one of the unique life cycles. There are three life cycles. You have annuals, perennials, and then there's this unique one called biennial, which is an every other year life cycle, technically. But
Interesting.
most of the biennials, which there aren't many, but Rebecca happens to be one, they are such a heavy reseeder that it's not unusual that you see them every year. Um, so
Interesting. So we're talking so much about seeds. You've got your hat, the seed man, your title, the seed man. Even on your website, americanmeadows.com, there's a section that says meet Mike, the seed man.
yes,
Tell me how the seed man came to be.
yeah, sure. So I again going back to my teenage days, which was in the mid '90s. At the time, we had a summer retail store in Vermont. Tourism is big, and Ray and Shy, we had a retail store where up top was like a floor related gift shop, and then downstairs was where we had our seed, and it was funky where you had to walk up and then kind of come down, and there would be a table, and I would sit behind the table, and people would come down to the seed shop, and they would look at me and say, "You must be the seed man," and I was like, That's very catchy," and so I was like, "Hey," and I put it on T-shirts, and it kind of stuck, and it's been there ever since, and that was back in probably 1996, 97, something like that. So that is how the name the Seed Man came about, from customers coming down and saying, "You must be the Seed Man." So
Now, I understand that you have a unique ability to, or I think when you started out as a teenager, you had learned opposite. People would sometimes see a flower and identify it. You, being the seed man, you look at seeds and you can identify the seeds rather than the flowers, or clear me up on that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So people always ask, how did you get your start in horticulture, and how did wildflowers and so on, and how did you learn and all this? And yeah, I always tell people I feel like I learned flowers, wildflowers, opposite of most people, where most people will take a field guide and they'll go out and they'll say, oh, that's what a daisy is, and that's what lupin is, and that's what Rebecca is. Well, I learned wildflowers seed first, because at the time I wasn't, as a teenager, I wasn't big into gardening at the time. And so I could put 100 different varieties on the table and I could tell you what every single one was seed form. I had no idea what it looked like in the flower form. So luckily we had test gardens out there. So after I was packing seed all day, I'd go out and I'd be like, oh, that's what a daisy is, or that's what a lupin looks like, or that's what echinacea looks like. I knew what it looked like from seed form. I had no idea what it looked like in flower form. So that's how I learned a lot of the flowers: seed first and then flower second.
That's funny because I'm so careful when I get my bags of seed from you. Uh, I save the label and I put it inside the bag because I'll not know what it is. But I've gotten good with the cosmos and zinnia. I kind of have a visual now, because the cosmos they have like a almost like a like a star, I guess, or
Yeah,
almost like they look like fireworks to me.
they're long and pointy, and they are
Yeah,
really challenging to package.
because they're so, yeah, they're almost like a tall grass seed, right?
Yeah, they tend to intertwine, like, because they're kind of I don't want to say like stick like. So when you're trying to scoop it, it's hard to get a scoop in there because a lot of the seeds are like they're
Oh
pretty
yeah,
firm and
they
they're like
interlock, right?
intertwined. So if you were ever to come up to our warehouse, Ed, and visit and tried to pack some of that our warehouse guys, they'll cuss you when planting, having to package some of the varieties can be a little zinnia, much easier, flat, relatively not too dense a seed. Cosmos, that it's a challenge seed wise.
That's funny you say that, because I noticed even when I was getting the seed out of the bag with my hand, the uh, the zinnia, you reach in, you grab a handful. The cosmos is like, it's difficult
Yeah,
to get in there. So
absolutely. You're exactly right. Yeah. So, not to geek out about seed, but, one of the parts of the job I love, and again, learning the varieties and all the different seed sizes and textures. And it's like dorky. If you were to come to our warehouse and just put your hand in different types of seed, it's cool. It's a cool, it's fun and cool experience, all the different textures and stuff. And I enjoy, like, when I make custom mixes, it can be fun sometimes if I use like a clear canister or whatever I'm using, and I'm making a custom mix for someone, and I'm dumping all the components, and you can see all the different textures in the colors. It's actually really cool.
well, who better to geek out than the seed man?
Yeah, I know.
That's,
Yeah,
what you do. Let's take a couple questions here, Mike. David W has a question about, he had ordered in the past. It's been a couple years, but he's talking about some gnome shirts. Is that something you did or do, or?
yeah. It's going back a few years, but yeah, we used to. I think we did like free T-shirts over X amount of dollars with orders. That was probably back in 2018, 2019. I don't think we have any more left, but I do remember those.
Well, David was obviously a good customer with over 20, so that's
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
that's great. And then I saw another question here from Who's Your Handyman. Do you offer any native prairie grass seed, purple coneflower, compass plant,
We do,
big blue
yeah,
stem?
yeah. We absolutely do. And on our website, not only do we have wildflower mixtures, which obviously you're very familiar with, we have a section of grasses, legumes, and clovers. And not only under that section, just like we do with our wildflowers, where we have traditional, we have native mixes, we have native grass mixes as well, right on our website, americanmeadows.com. So we absolutely do. We have big blue stems, we have little blue stems, and a variety of other native grasses, which you can view them all at americanmeadows.com.
You have a great website, by the way.
Thank
It's
you.
very intuitive. It's attractive. It just functions well. So you put a lot of work into that website, obviously, and
Yeah, we do lots of content, and I think, as Ed, we were talking before, and a lot of my job is just educating people. It's inspiring, but also educating them. And on our website, we take a lot of pride in the content. The how-to videos to inspire, but kind of walk you through step by step. Some do's, some don'ts, common mistakes, and then you can ultimately decide as the consumer the direction you want to go in, whether it's the preparation or the types of plants, whether you want to do all native or, some introduced species, is a lot of great content on that website that we're proud of.
absolutely. Another question here. I lost it here. Question about bee balm being a
Yep.
perennial.
Menard,
Is that
it is a perennial, absolutely a perennial. And so many different varieties of bee balm. Awesome, easy to do from seed. I would argue probably, especially with a lot of the cultivars, there's a lot more bee balm varieties found in plant form. We sell lots on our website. It is a pollinator magnet. So if you're looking to, not only does it come back, it can spread, but in my opinion, Monarda spreading is a good thing. It's a pollinator magnet. So if you're looking for an easy, low maintenance, easy to grow perennial, going to come back year after year, showy, mid to late season, Monarda, which is the botanical for bee balm, is awesome flower.
and you sell that seed?
We sell seed and we sell plant material as well too, because it's
You,
it's very, very popular. Very
so
popular.
you sell rooted plants? Is that what you
We
mean?
do. Yeah, we
Okay,
do. So
I did
we
not know
do.
that.
Yeah, we do our wildflower mixes, which is what we're known for. We've been selling those since the early 80s. I think it was Ed back in 2000. And again, this was Ray's brilliance. As he grew this wildflower segment, he was like, well, people are coming to our site for wildflowers. Maybe let's try to start selling some bulbs. And we started selling bulbs in early 2000, and that was a success. And then he said, hey, let's start selling some bare root and some perennials. We do 3 to 5 inch pots. And guess what? Those have done very well. So, yes, we do not only with our world famous wildflower mixtures and individual species from seed, we do bulbs, both tender and hardy bulbs, and then we do perennials, which will range anywhere from bare root up to a 4 inch pot, anything that can ship through the mail. Yeah, so
Excellent. One thing that I had to learn was how much seed to buy, because you look at the website and you can buy a quarter pound of Cosmos or whatever, and you really don't get a feel for how much that is. And when you get the product, it's like, wow, this is more than I thought, uh, because it's so feather light, a lot of the seed. So what do you tell people when they're like, I don't know how much to buy?
yeah, absolutely, Ed. It's again one of those questions I uh, answer every
I'm sure
day.
you do.
And
I'm sure you
first
do.
and foremost is trying to have a sense of how big is the area that the customer is wanting to plant, because when somebody calls me up and says, I have a large area, Mike, I say, okay, large in like 25 square feet large or large 20 acres. And it can, everyone's perception's different. And so first and foremost is always getting aligned with roughly how big of an area are we talking about? And then from there, Ed, is aligning them. Are they going to do a mixture or are they doing individual species, whatever the case may be? And then guiding them on the appropriate amount of seed for the size of the area. So always telling
Right.
people you don't have to go out there with a tape measure, even if you just pace it off, but it helps to have some general ballpark of the size of the area. And that's going to dictate how much seed you might need for the project. Because again, without geeking out too much, there are actually scientific formulations for seeds per square inch, seeds per square foot, seeds per square whatever. And if you put down, and this is a kind of a misconception, a lot of times of people like, well, let's keep throwing more seed down, more seed. Well, if you plant too much seed and the seed begins to germinate, it's just going to compete with amongst themselves and it's going to hamper germination, hamper growth. So you want to make sure you are putting down the proper amount of seed. And on our website, whether it's mixture or individual species, on the product pages, we give you rough coverage rates for everything that we sell in seed form to help kind of guide you during that journey of trying to figure out how much seed you're going to need.
Yeah, I know that I have overseeded in the past, and I've tried each year to cut back a little bit because when you're putting it down, it doesn't feel like much, and then the seeds and the flowers come in. It's like, oh my gosh, they're so thick. Like you said, I probably ended up losing some because they competed, and so we've tried to really fine tune that a bit. And I think this year we did pretty well because I did the sand mixture with the spreader
Yeah,
with the 8-to-1 ratio, and they're still coming in really thick. So
yeah, and
if I didn't do that, it would have been a lot.
yeah, and it's funny, Ed, because I do think one of the big well, oh, it's the biggest hiccup, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't read instructions on the product. Like they buy the seed, which is great, and I think they must just open the bag and they're like, I'm ready to throw seed, and the instructions are important. And as you just mentioned there, mixing the seed with sand is important because again, you want to get that not only even distribution, but making sure that it covers the proper size of your area. And everything that we sell as it pertains to our mixes and individual species, we're selling 100% pure seed, which I think sometimes people don't realize. We get a lot of people, if their only experience is going into like a big box store and buying this package that looks nice because it has this picture of a meadow on the outside, but then they bring it home and they open it up and they dump it out and they barely can find any seed. It looks like a bag of sand or a bag of crushed walnut hulls. Well, 90% of what you just bought was exactly that. And when you buy from us, it's pure seed. We recommend mixing it, as you found out, Ed, using the builder sand or sandbox sand to make sure that it covers the proper ratio.
I fell into that trap, probably 10, 15 years ago before I knew about your company. And I remember buying a big bucket of wildflower seed. And I thought, this is going to be amazing, and then I opened the bucket up and it's all, I guess, vermiculite and there's a few
Yep.
seeds scattered. I was so disappointed with that because I felt like I was tricked because I bought this big bucket of seed thinking this is going to be amazing. Uh, but
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it does happen. And again, when you talk about, hey, what's the difference between a company like American Meadows and what we sell versus what you might find in those big box stores, there's a significant difference. Buying from a reputable seed company, buying 100% pure seed. Ed, somewhere on our site, I believe we did this analysis where we took $20, or at the time, I think it was like if you took a pound of our regional mix, at the time it was $25, which was 100% pure seed, and you compared it to those big box packages. How many of those would you have to buy to equate to 1 pound of our seed? It was like you'd have to spend $300 of that, the competitor product to equal 1 pound of our seed. So you know, we want to make sure you're buying pure seed, and that's one of the big differences between the products we sell versus what you see out there, over the counter, the big box kind of,
that's right.
mix. So,
I see another question here. First of all, thank you, John, for the super sticker. That's really kind. I appreciate that. Margaret has a question basically about harvesting your own seed. Now, I know we're not trying to, we want to buy from American Meadows, but it's a good question. Can you clip the
yeah,
flowers? Do they all go to seed? Can you clip them? Can you save them?
yeah, you can. It's a fun project. People do it all the time. But here's the thing to keep in mind is all the seed that we sell at American Meadows is lab tested to ensure the highest quality possible, which not only includes purity. So we have to make sure, like within the USDA rules and regulations, which are state by state, noxious weeds and percentages of species in the mixes and stuff. So we make sure not only is our seed the highest quality on a purity side, but also the highest quality on a germination side. So all the seed is lab tested to make sure high purity and high germination, so that when Ed goes out and sows his cosmos, he's getting lots of cosmos. When you collect your own seed, which is great, just keep in mind you might collect a whole bag of cosmos seed and it actually might only yield 10% quality seed because, for better or worse, Mother Nature, there's lots of seed that's just not viable, has low germ. So don't get your hopes up too high that all that seed you collected is going to germinate at the same quality of some seed you may have purchased from us or another reputable seed company. But it's fun. I always encourage people to go out and do it. Um, Ideally, days you monitor the seed as the petals fall off, the seed head dries. There is some details you want to keep in mind. Different flowers go to seed at different times. I always sometimes I might try to go out and harvest some echinacea seed. I have a lot of competition from the birds. Like I'll be monitoring one, the petals will drop. It's just starting to turn brown. The seeds are just ripe. I go out the next morning. The birds have eaten them all. And so, it takes a little more work in that regard, but you can absolutely do it. Just keep in mind that the seed you might collect might not have the greatest germination rates or what you might be used to from the seed that you purchased because that seed is lab tested to make sure the quality is high.
Well, I mean, the success rate that we get, I mean, we see it every year. It's amazing. I mean, I don't want to say I'm skeptical, but I feel like every year when I throw the seed down, I think, I wonder if it's going to work. It just, you just don't know until you see it, but it always comes up,
Yeah.
and it's just, it's, I can't express enough how easy it is to do. If somebody wants to plant, start with a small section. The hardest part is prepping the ground. I mean, I have a tiller on the back of the tractor, which makes it nice, but yeah, I think preparation might be the most difficult. Which leads me to a question: Can you plant seed in unturned soil and try to rake it in, or do you really have to turn the soil to get good results?
So we always recommend preparation and success both in the short and long term. Preparation is critical. If it was as easy as just throwing seed out, I would have retired 20 years ago. But like any other gardening endeavor, it does take some work, and the preparation is important. How you go about preparing the area, that again, personal preference. Sounds like Ed, you tend to use a tiller, which is what I tend to use as well, because I find it to be easy and efficient for me and my space. But there are plenty of other ways you can go about preparing, whether you put down some plastic to solarize, whether you use a no dig, a no till method where you smother it with cardboard. All of those can be options. They all have pros and cons. I'm not one to preach you got to do this one or else, it's not going to work. Ultimately, depending on the size of the area that you have, the time that you might have to prepare, because they can all take different time lengths, etc. Ultimately, you can decide what works best for you and your conditions, but don't skimp on the prep. Preparation is important because you spend a little more time preparing it the right way, getting rid of as much of the grass and weeds that are there to have exposed bare soil. The better results your planting is going to yield, not only in the short term, especially if you're doing some annual establishment, but annuals can also help suppress weeds if you have perennials in there as well. But not only going to benefit in the short term, but also in the long term as well. So preparation is important, Ed. And unfortunately, you can't just kind of throw
No,
seed out there and expect miracles to happen. You got
we
to do
always
some.
want an easy way out, but there's you can't avoid doing a little bit of work on the front end
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah,
But it's worth it. We've got a question here
absolutely.
from Linda, and I think what she's asking is if there's a particular uh, plant or flower that would absorb water in uh, or that you can plant in a wet condition. Like, are certain flowers better in obviously some like well drained soil? Are there
Yep.
some that thrive in a damper
Yeah.
location?
There absolutely are. And again, if you go to our website, AmericanMeadows.com, if you under our mixture section, we actually have a wetland wildflower blend of flowers that tend to prefer wet. I like to call it wet feet. So things such as Asclepias or Lobelia, there are plenty. And again, you want to be mindful of how you're defining wet. Is it standing water? Is it, how are you going to prepare it if it happens to be damp? Is it, because if you've ever tried to till mud, that can break your tiller.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful, but they're absolutely on our website. We're fortunate to create blends for a lot of different type of solutions, whether it be wet or dry, or low growing, etc. And you can find those at American Meadows. But there absolutely are mixes in flowers that will thrive in more wet conditions.
Excellent. I saw a comment here giving Mike kudos for being an awesome teacher. And when's
Thank
Ed
you.
going to visit America? I'd love to come up and visit sometime. That'd be great.
Yeah, always welcome. Always welcome.
Excellent. Question here. We talked about bee balm, but this Phil has a specific question. Is there a particular variety of flower that's best for bees? Now, I know when we plant these cosmos and zinnias and sunflowers, we see the bees all over them. But is there any particular varieties that they prefer or that may yield
Um,
the most?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, and those bright colors. You'll hear tubular flowers, so they can go in there and grab the nectar. But again, on our site, we have a couple different types of mixtures for specifically attracting bees, both honeybees and native honeybees as well. We differentiate a little bit there, so you can find those on our website. But absolutely, again, we have some specific mixtures of flowers tailored for different types of bees.
Fantastic. And Jay has a question. I don't know if this is more of a flower question, but he's looking for deer cover in a clay area. Uh,
Sure. So I look at that as a two-part question. So, as we've been talking about, Ed, flowers for different types of solutions, whether it be feeding the bees or um, putting in flowers for trying to keep the deer away, per se. We have lots of people who will try to plant, and they live in an area where the deer don't have a food source, so they come in and they'll just eat whatever vegetation you try to plant. So again, on our website, fortunately, like here in Vermont, it's relatively rural, although I live in a suburb of Burlington. There's lots of wildlife around. My meadow outside here, the deer will not, they don't bother eating it. They may lay in it actually for cover, but there's other vegetation around, like apple orchards, etc., where there's other food sources. But I have plenty of people, like in the suburbs of New York City, where not only is there an overpopulation of deer, but they don't have a food source, and so they're going to eat whatever they put out. So a lot of times, again, it's a case by case basis, Ed. But we have on our website mixtures that we consider them deer resistant, or flowers that the deer tend to stay away from. And then as far as establishing in the type of soil, whether it be loamy soil or sandy soil or clay, this is one of the beauties and why wildflowers are so popular. They're not so soil specific. They can adapt to many different types of soils. I tell Jay here, I'd say, Jay, is there existing growth in the area you're thinking about planting? Is there grass, weeds, etc.? That if the answer is yes, that tells me that there's plenty of nutrients in the existing soil where you don't need to amend it or do anything. You're going to use the soil as is. If Jay said, yeah, Mike, it's real heavy clay, the growth is pretty spotty. I've tried to grow things in the past, haven't had good luck. That's when I might suggest to get the soil tested or amend the soil, because right away I can tell it probably doesn't have enough nutrients to support wildflowers. So those are some things to think about and look for as far as clay goes, and then also deer.
Mike has an answer for everything. Brilliant.
I tried.
Side question. Were you in the path of totality for the eclipse?
We certainly were. I have to say, I wasn't skeptical, but I was like, as you can imagine, that this is a really busy time for us.
Yeah.
And leading up to it, there was a lot of hoopla, like where we were here in Vermont and being in the path, and we're going to have 1 million people come to the state. My head was down, just like focused on our business, and it came, and I got to say, it was off the charts. Like, it was unbelievable. We just sat right on our front deck out front, and it was pretty special, I have to say. It crystal clear. It went dark. Mosquitoes came out. Like it lived up to the hype. It was pretty cool.
We were going to come to Burlington, but we couldn't find a. I guess there were hotels, but everything was very expensive because they knew that it was going to be popular. We ended up going to Canada, up to Niagara, so we did experience it. But unfortunately, there was cloud cover where we were, so we didn't actually see it. But it, like you said, it went dark. The street lights came on. The temperature dropped. It was really amazing. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you got to experience that.
Yeah, we were very fortunate, and again, I hadn't been paying much attention to it, and all the hoopla, and it lived up to it, and it was pretty special. We were very very lucky in that regard. Pretty cool.
Nice. Well, we're talking to Mike from American Meadows, and before we wrap up tonight, we're going to do a giveaway, so stick around for that. I see one more question here from Margaret about butterflies. I know milkweed is popular for butterflies, but are there flowers that butterflies? Obviously, you see butterflies on flowers, but is there a
Yeah,
particular variety that
yeah.
butterflies
hmm
are attracted
Absolutely.
to?
So the Asclepias for the monarch butterflies, Asclepias is a host plant. So there's different types of Asclepias, from swamp milkweed to common milkweed to butterfly milkweed. They're all great. But even going back to the person who posted about bee balm, that's a butterfly magnet. Bee balms, the Asclepias. I'd put Cosmos and Zinnia right up there. My meadow, I have those in bloom in the, say, mid to late summer, loaded with monarchs. They absolutely love it. So not only can you get and attract them with perennials, but you can also get them with annuals too. And sometimes people poo-poo annuals because they're just 1 year, too much work. But they are phenomenal. Those zinnias and cosmos for butterflies are awesome.
I'll be on the lookout for butterflies. By the way, before we do this, the sticker giveaway that we do every week as well, Mike's going to contribute to this as well, which is exciting. But I did want to
Yes.
mention, Mike, you were also sharing a coupon code for
Yes.
folks tonight. And if they do want to order from AmericanMeadows.com, they can enter this code that I am speaking slowly so I can find it. Coupon code Green Thumb, and they'll get $5 off of a purchase of $50 or more.
Yep. Just type that in your cart. There'll be a coupon spot. You type that in, and you'll get $5 off 50 or more.
And do we still have time to buy seed? Like at what point have we lost the window?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Ed, and we're getting that obviously. But being in the Midwest, Northeast, still have plenty of time to plant. I would say once your temperatures get up consistently into the low to mid 80s and the ground temperatures have really warmed up, for us, that's usually like early to, about mid June. Once you get there, I'd say, hey, you might want to think about holding off in either doing a fall planting or think about doing your planting for next spring. But we still have a good 3-4 week window. I'm going to be sowing my meadow tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow. I'm doing the prep tomorrow. Hopefully sowing in the next few days. We've got some warm weather, but we also have some rain mixed in. So as we were talking earlier, I'm going to take advantage of the rain because I don't like to water. So I'm going to take advantage of the rain that's coming. That should get my seed to germinate pretty quickly.
Good. So we still have time. And I also want to compliment you on your shipping department because my orders come in quickly. I've had some viewers reach out and let me know they've ordered after seeing my video, and they were very pleased with the whole process, and they received their order quickly. So you have a good system there, obviously.
Yeah, they work hard. This is we're shipping a couple thousand orders a day, and they really work hard and to get those out, and everybody wants their seed this time of year, so getting those orders out as quickly as we can. Absolutely.
Great. Well, Mike, what time it is? It's time for our weekly giveaway. Now, what I do each week is I give away some of my stickers that I have made for the channel here.
right?
But you're going to contribute to this week's giveaway. Tell us about what you're offering to folks today.
All right, so I've got my book, Mini Meadows. Grow a little patch of colorful wildflowers anywhere around your yard. I wrote this book back in 2019, Story Publishing. So we're going to give away a signed copy of the book along with a 1/4 pound of regional wildflower mix for one lucky person. So Ed gets to choose, but we will give away a 1/4 pound of seed and a signed copy of my book.
That's great. And is that book also available for purchase on your website?
It is. Yep, absolutely. It's on our website, in all major, Amazon and Barnes & Noble, all that. Yep. So.
Excellent. Well, the way this works, if anybody's new to the show tonight, I'm going to place a word or a phrase on the screen. And in the live chat, you'll enter this word or phrase exactly the way you see it. And then we'll randomly draw a winner. So tonight's word, pretty simple, #Mike. Make sure you use the hashtag. It can be uppercase or lowercase or a mix. It doesn't matter. No spaces. #Mike. That's all we need. And once we get a number of entries in, just like Phil's doing here from Peterson Farms in Nashville, #Mike. That's all you need to do. And I should have asked earlier, but does this include our friends from Canada?
Yeah, we can ship to Canada.
Okay, and do you normally ship to Canada from your site as well? Do you have Canadian orders?
We do. Yeah, we do, because we're actually 45 minutes from the Canadian border, being in northern Vermont. So we actually do. Predominantly our seed products, the live plant material is a little challenging with restrictions going across borders, but seed, we certainly do.
Good to know. I'm surprised that I didn't see that question earlier. That's each time I have a guest, the question often is, do you ship to Canada? So
we do.
All right. Well, we're going to hit this draw button here in just a moment. Just as the song wraps up. Here we go. I like to just, there we go. It's Roy Miller. Congratulations, Roy. Roy's our winner tonight of not only the MCG sticker pack, but Mike's generous offer of the 1/4 pound of seed and the autographed copy of the book. Congratulations, Roy. So, Roy, what I need you to do is to email me at contactmcgtv@gmail.com, and I'll need your mailing address. I will send you some stickers. I'll forward your information to Mike, and they will get your book and your seed out to you. Now, Mike, you had mentioned regional seeds. So are you going to send, based on whatever Roy's address is, you'll send something appropriate for that address?
That's exactly correct. Yep, that's exactly correct.
Perfect. Well, Roy, congratulations. We look forward to hearing from you. And that was a lot of fun. Well, listen, Mike, I think I could talk to you all night long, but we're at the end of our time here. And I can't thank you enough for joining me tonight. I hope that we'll talk again. And I want to encourage folks to not only watch my last video, but if you rewatch this, post questions, maybe we can reach out to Mike and get some answers for you as well. But what a fantastic informational evening this was.
Yeah, thanks again, Ed, for having me. And if questions do come up after the fact, collect them, send them over, Ed, and I'll get those answers right back to you. And I will continue to monitor and see all the updates on the meadow, and would love to do it again, maybe this fall or next spring. So anytime we can talk seeds, I'm always game. So.
And now I have a reason. Not that I didn't have a reason to come to Vermont, but I'd love to come up sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to give you a tour. We do it often. I think you'd be pleasantly surprised how big our facility is and how much seed we have at any given time. You'd be in heaven, Ed.
I think I would. I think I would. You'd have to check my pockets when I leave.
There you go. Yeah, it's pretty special.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. You have a great night.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me again.
You bet. And thank you for watching tonight. I really do appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed this this time with Mike. And Again, check out AmericanMeadows.com for your seed needs, and use the code Green Thumb for a discount on $50 or more. This was fun. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. And as always, I look forward to seeing you next time.